Anuke, Nasat, Huntwy, Sanan, Atum, Rayay. Mudras Mulmad. Panabab Mulmad. Panabab Yanun. Lanin, Rachucha Amma. Dr. Malachi Kobina Zodak York. I'd like to welcome everyone to today's class, today's new Outformation class here at Paparar, Marar number 1. Today's reading or study is entitled Alelu, Anu, and the Throne. Greetings to you, my beloved Nuapu. Shalil Wunuap. Often I'm asked about Alelu. So, Nud Emud answered Ningish Zida with this discussion for you to know. 1. Many millions of years ago, a planet in a far-away universe that had accepted different other aliens began to have internal conflicts and was at a point in time where one of the groups ignited a destructive device and all had to desert that planet. Each had to construct crafts. Some chose many smaller crafts, while one group, Anakim, chose to construct a planet-type craft called Nibiru, or Nibiru. 2. They constructed it outside their own planet as a space station and place a force field shield around it of gold dust to protect it as it traveled, seeking a home planet to settle. 3. Those were very highly developed beings. 4. They reached this side of the universe and moved into an orbit. 5. Because of mixing with other aliens while on their original home planet, the Meldekians, who were of the groups of draconian species, birthed Homo saurus. So they share the new planet craft, Nibiru, as it crossed the universe. 6. These were two groups that ruled their own species. 1, Anuna, humanoids. 2, Tanan, reptilianoids. 7. So this new planet craft, Nibiru, Nibiru, was divided into two large factions. 8, the North and the South. 9, in time, the species of the North, Tananu, made war with the species of the South, Anaku. 10, this conflict is long and fierce, with much destruction on both sides. 11. For as this planet craft orbited the sun in this new solar system in a elongated path. 12. It spent a long time far from the sun of this solar system. 13. While it was near the sun, the planet craft became very heated. 14. While it was far from the sun, the planet craft became very cold in deep space. 15. The Mutnanu preferred the deep space, and the Nu Pa Mu'naku preferred the heat of the sun. 16. This caused more conflicts because of the changing atmosphere. This caused renewed problems by also a constant stream of volcanic eruptions like explosions. 17. The gold dust cloud formed a thick vapor canopy that retained heat and reflected light, and this pleased Pa Anaku and displeased Pa Tananu. The shield deflected away harmful cosmic rays, as was good for climate control, even gave rays to lakes, streams, and lush vegetation for surface dwellers, yet mad Tananu were dwellers beneath the waters or beneath the surfaces, in caverning. 18. This caused much conflict on Nibiru between the two species and their visiting associates. Both groups had their own aliens from other star systems who would come and stay or visit Nibiru, such as Madbabu, lizardmen, and Mudganu, fishmen, and Muhtaru, insect men, as well as different species of Mermadu, greys, and Mutnanu, who were also mixed Mudganu, would kidnap and abduct some of the greys from Zeta Reticulum. The group of reptilians called Mushafu would take them, and they were visitors of the Anaku, not the Tananu. This also caused much conflict between the two groups on the inside of Nibiru. 19. To escape the conflicts, aliens had to wait until Nibiru crossed into this solar system and jump by crafts to other planets and their moons, such as to Lahmu, Mars, and Lahamu, Venus, and Kishar, Jupiter, and its moon, Europa, and Anshar, Saturn's moon, Titan, and Enceladus. Some others made it to Orion's many star systems or Sirius star systems. This caused another war on Nibiru. 20. This war again concluded great weapons. 20. This war again included great weapons of destruction, one of which caused the shield to deplete, a great fear for the Anaku, yet not for the Tananu. 21. The destruction spread, vast, widespread, and for several cycles, as Nibiru made its orbit of 3,600 years to pass near this Milky Way and send inside this solar system smaller Nibiru crafts to investigate. 22. So, desolation was widespread effect all who dwelled on the planet craft, as well as those Etherians who oversaw all yet stayed in the heavens about each planet that they visited. 23. Much life was being diminished. Because of this, the overseers, the providers, Murzak'u or Razak'u, informed them all that a truce must take place, or the whole planet and its many fleets will be destroyed by the galactic order, the confederation of systems, over whom and which presides Pa Murzak'u from the highest abode. 24. This truce was enforced. It was declared and a peace treaty negotiated between Mutgan'u and Anak'u. The Tanan'u refused to cooperate and was banished to the Draco star system. 25. And it was agreed that this planetary government would be formed with one ruler, not two as before, as the absolute sovereign over all of Nibiru. 26. So each side presented a candidate, and after a drawing of lots, the ruler was selected from the north. 27. The first ruler after peace was Mad, a powerful being of the north, yet must take a female of a ruling family from the south who would have a voice in treatment of the south. 28. She would rule by his side, equal in power as one flesh. 29. The Noon team quickly built a new city called Agad. Unity is what it meant in their language. 30. They then set out on a task of restoring order. All was well for a time. 31. Because of so many males who died in the many wars, it was made a rule that each Anak'u and Dagan'u take more than one female, yet that the very first wife should be the legal spouse of his own species, preferred a sister by one of his own parents. 32. This again caused problems in the succession by the fact that if the consort not of the same species had a first son, does the consort or concubine's son take the throne? And if already married and having had a first son by the wife of his own species, the throne would then be ruled by one side. Conflict clearly. 33. By the time of the fifth ruler of Nibiru, Inshar, things started to deteriorate. Rulers, first, and male, and two female. Second, Anib, male, Ninib, female. Third, Anshargal, male, Kishargal, female. Fourth, Anshar, male, Kishar, female. Fifth, Inshar, male, Ninshar, female. Kishargal had a son, Alam, Mutganu, father of Alelu. 34. The fact that Anshargal had a son, first named Alam, by a consort of a different species, and this son had a son named Alelu, who had a daughter named Damkina. 35. In the reign of Anshar, the fourth conflict and the working together stopped. 36. So Inshar the fifth called out to the Merzak'u to call a meeting on Nibiru. They incarnated into human form as the intellectual elite of all the supreme beings of the Emerald Illumination, called down in form for an emergency meeting in Agada. The unity was broken. 37. It became their own problem, not easy to contain. The Razak'u decided, being it was a physical problem, they have to solve it peacefully, physically, and departed. 38. So both sides studied this problem and declared that it had happened before in Nibiru's past and was an inevitable consequence based on the orbit of Nibiru. So this is it. 39. We see where it began, this time around, from the fourth ruler's son Anshargal and Suramal, birth of a son Alam. Anshargan and Shargal and Suramal, consort, birth Alam. Alam and Gadamal, birth Alelu. Alelu and Saranmal, birth Damkina. This on one side of the lines. Then after this, Lahmu and Lahamu, birth Anu. And Anu and Nimal, birth Inki. So you ended up with Alelu and Anu, both rulers of separate species. 40. Because Anshar gave way to his son Inshar. 41. And Anu did not do the same when it came to Inki by Nimal, a consort. He gave way to Enlil by his sister wife Antu. 42. So Nibiru's atmosphere continued to deteriorate as they moved forward toward the coming sun season, and its atmosphere was depleting fast. Who should rule, Anu or Alelu? What to do? War is what Anu feared again, as well as Alelu. 43. Before then, you had Inshar, who gave way to his sons by a consort, concubine, and Du'uru became the seventh ruler of Nibiru. 44. As things grew even worse, to the point that sex was ordered stopped, no more births. 45. Du'uru's wife, Dauru, found a baby boy at the home gate of Du'uru, adopted him as his legal heir, and named him Lahmu. 46. With the atmosphere and life on Nibiru at a critical stage, Lahma was grieving. Two choices to deal with the problem. The first solution was to use the weapons of terror. 47. To blast the volcano and awaken their belching to rebuild the atmosphere. 48. The second solution is to obtain large quantities of good gold and suspend it in the atmosphere to rebuild the shield. 49. Only actual facts is there was every little gold on Nibiru, yet they knew much was sent to a planet in the Milky Ways they called Tiamat. 50. What to do, and Lahma was a weak ruler, very indecisive as a leader. This caused more chaotic actions on both sides. 51. And this led to great dissatisfaction in the high courts, to the point that some openly spoke of rebellion. 52. This finally reached a boiling point, and rebellion broke out, led by a ruler himself on a lower level. He was Alelu. 53. Alelu ordered his followers to go to the storehouse of all the smaller weapons and retrieve them, prepare for rebellion. So his followers took up arms, yelling out, "We will replace Lama. No longer will he be ruler. We need someone who makes clear decisions, who does not hesitate. Come, let us remove Lahma at his dwelling. Remove him from the throne." So they went to the gate of Lahma's dwelling. 54. Know this, Nuwapians. Alelu himself was a supporter of Lahma before this. Now he has Lahma trapped on his throne in his throne room. 55. Yet when they broke down the door to the throne room, Lahma's supporters separated his family from him, while some rushed him up to the tower of his dwelling. 56. Yet Alelu chased him personally, knowing his dwelling well. 57. Once before him face to face, Lahma felt safe before Alelu, a supporter, yet Alelu threw him from the tower, killing Lahma. 58. After pushing Lahma to his death, Alelu ran back down to the throne room and declared himself ruler. Did not consult the Razaku or any others, even without going before the council. 59. All the others were uncertain and unsure what to do or think of this action. He pronounced himself sovereign ruler over all Nibiru. 60. The High Council of the planet Crab summoned Alelu and demanded that he show and prove his divine bloodline and lineage. 61. After much discussion of who is who, in which bloodline, and consultation of documents. 62. Once Alelu was being questioned, he finally declared that he was of the bloodline, being the son of Alam and Gadimal. And Alam was son of Anshargal and a consort, Sirimal. 63. These females, being of unrecognized bloodline, being not wives, yet only concubines of former rulers. 64. This put Alelu's bloodline in question, doubted. 65. The High Council asked at this meeting, and there was a need at this meeting to render a decision. 66. A voice was heard at this meeting, and there was a need at this meeting to render a decision. 67. The young prince whose voice was heard was An, also called Anu. He stepped forward and declared that as a direct descendant and of pure bloodline, much purer than Alelu. 68. Alelu questioned, and it was declared that this young prince Anu bare the name of the very first ruler of Nibiru. 69. Who was An, and that his sister wife bare the same name as the original An, she was Antu as well. 70. Putting him eighth in line from the first, and pure-blooded, pure seed, pure records. And many yelled out, "It is true." So he was called up front to recite his family line, down to himself. The young prince did just that. I am Anu, traced back before disruption of our pure family line. Antu, Anib, Ninib, Kishurgal, Anshurgal, Kishar, Anshar, Ninshar, Inshar, Duura, Duuru, Dauru, Lahama, Lahma. I am Anu of the pure blood, not related to Lahma, who that one killed with his own hands. 71. Voices were risen in anger, yet calmed down, because Anu had a better claim to the throne. 72. The high council wavered in favor of Anu. 73. And then brought Alelu forward to inform him of the choice and the new claim. 74. They all knew that if Alelu wished at this point, he could restart an all-out war with a single word. 75. The whole hall became completely silent, not a word, as all eyes focused on Alelu. 76. Alelu, knowing that Anu, by his bloodline, had a great deal of support in the high council. So Alelu spoke that his voice would be heard. Let my words be known at this place and time. 77. I, Alelu, son of Alam and Gadimal, and very proud of my divine bloodline, as a Mutganu of the Mutnanu, have this to say. 78. I offer this compromise only. 79. That I, Alelu, would retain rulership, yet Anu would be made my heir and crown prince. 80. Anu is to agree, and as such is to wed one of my own daughters, to seal the covenant. This is the one I offer before all. Her name is Nu, Nimal. She is my favorite, wise and trusted. 81. Do you agree? 82. All seeing no other choice before them, all agreed that included Anu. 83. From there, Alelu then moved swiftly to construct a fleet of 20,000 Kabadat to be manned by 1,000 of his Shananu, Strong's number 8136. His plan was to go to Tiamat, Timtu, in order to retrieve the good gold, something he had planned a while back, as he would visit Tiamat, and had set up his cities in what is now South America. 84. The secret plan was leaked and their crafts crushed by the Draconians. None of them returned with the good gold. 85. Alelu then ordered that the weather weapons of Nibiru be destroyed, and this was done. 86. And there was a great deal of expectation that this good gold would solve Nibiru's worsening climate problems. It did not come to pass. 87. All the Nibirians began to blame and turn against Alelu, and his family was in danger. 88. The Nibirians ceased to revere their ruler Alelu. Instead of relief, misery did he cause. 89. So this gave Anu his chance. 90. He openly challenged Alelu to hand-to-hand combat, the winner to be declared the sovereign ruler over all. 91. Alelu agreed, and after a fierce conflict that lasted between the two for 3 days and 3 nights, 92. Anu defeated Alelu and assumed the throne. 93. Now Alelu remembered what he had done to Lahma. 94. And fearing the same fate for himself what Lahma suffered at his own hands. 95. Alelu ran to gather up his family and devotees, rushed to his private spaceport, and with armed Amadat, flying pillars, and Magalat, flying rows, some for passengers, others for weapons of smoke and fire, armed with nuclear weapons. His destination was set. Return to Tiamat, Timtu, Earth, across to the west, to his city, Puma Punku. And that concludes the reading for this chapter.
Yeah, can you explain the difference between the two species of reptilians that were fighting, the Sahafu and the Nakum? Can you explain the difference between those two species?
The master teacher explained many updates ago. You had 2 different species of those reptilians. One was more of a humanoid type reptilian or reptoids, and the other was more of a reptilian species. So you had the Mudganu, as he explained before, and you had the Mushafu. Those were the 2 different species. And again, one was more of, as he explained, was a reptoid, and the other one was more reptilian.
Rahubat.
Rahubat.
For my clarification, for whoever's application, please give me a bill. What's the difference between a reptilian and a reptoid?
As far as I know, the reptoids are more humanoid than the reptilian.
My question is, what is meant when it's stated legal wife? Well, does that mean that the other wife was illegal?
Let me read that part again. It says, because so many males who died in the many wars, it was made a rule that each Anaku and Daganu take more than one female, yet that very first wife should be the legal spouse of his own species, preferred a sister by one of his own parents. Basically what it's explaining that in terms of choosing a wife or a mate, they had rules or laws that govern this. So legally, that wife had to be of the same species, the first wife, and that would made it legal. Otherwise, it would be an illegal union because it would go against their laws that they established. So the first wife had to be of the species, of the same species.
Rahubat. Baba mentioned that the insectoids they mixed in with the sand people. Are those the mantis people, the insectoids?
Are they the which people?
Mantis.
I'm not sure, but he explained that you had different species. Because remember, the Sans people, or the beings who evolved, were part of the species that originally evolved first out of the waters onto the land. So many different extraterrestrials use the Sans people to mix in here and create their existence here, their genetics here. They mixed in with the prime being on the planet to better create, as the master explained, a skin suit for them to roam on this planet. So the insectoids, who he referred to as beings from Andromeda, also use the Sans people to create their skin suit, so to speak.
Tawad.
Any other questions?
You said skin suit. Could you explain that a little bit?
Well, it's simply put that we acknowledge, and this is one of the first things you learn in the conscious community as you become quote unquote conscious. You acknowledge that the you is not the physical body. You acknowledge that the real you is the being within the body that moves around in it. As the master says, the exercise the master explained, if you stare in the mirror long enough, you'll acknowledge that there's something looking from the inside at you, right? When you're talking about different extraterrestrial beings, this science is, of course, nothing new. We, as beings who are really becoming aware and conscious, are just learning that the physical aspects of the body is not what defines you as a person. It is part of a mess because the spirit, which mixes in with the physical, meshes to motivate and activate and move the body, but that is not who you are, the real you. The master explained years ago when you say the term like myself, right? The my denotes possession, and it separates you from the thing you possess. Just like when you say my car, that separates you from your car, but it creates the impression that there are two separate entities that you're talking about, right? So myself, that real self, is the you inside the body that moves around in the physical world. These extraterrestrials know that science and know that the physical aspects is not the only thing that determines who you are. Now, this goes back to the question which many people in the conscious community have a problem with. And that problem they have is understanding what sexuality is. This ties in. Because if we acknowledge that the physical body is not the sole determining factor in who we are, then how can you force an individual to be who their body defines them as? You follow? So if a person is born physically with the gender of a female, does not necessarily mean that is who they are on the inside. Because again, one of the first things you learn as a conscious individual is that you are not your physical body. There is a separation. You acknowledge that you existed before the body was formed, and you will exist after the body, their separation occurs. The body begins to decay, rigor mortis sets in. You realize that that life force that's within the body moves on to higher forms of life. So with that being the case, why do they have a problem with individuals who gender identity that they feel inside is different from the physical body in which they are born with? There's so many other things that determine sexuality that the master teacher is really beginning or has touched upon within the degrees of Wu-Sabat that because we have a religious concept of sexuality, we have a problem with it, or many have a problem with it. Right? But this ties into your question dealing with the skin suit. The skin suit does not solely determine who you are. That's the point.
Understood.
Any other question?
Did the beings from Aldebaran mix in with the Sands people to cause them to be lighter? The Palladians.
No. What the master teacher explained is that when you're dealing with the complexion of the Sands people, you have to remember that not only is your skin color determined by the amount of melanin you have, but it's also determined by the base element within the body, right? So he explained years ago, different base elements, what happens is when they oxidize, it begins to rust, right? He said that when you're dealing with the Sands people, they have different base elements than what we have. We, as people removed from that land, our base element is more so iron. So when we oxidize, we get this dark brownish hue, depending on the amount of melanin and things of that nature within your system. So the Sands people had different base elements than we had because of their environment that they lived in. Remember, many of the beings who came to this planet for gold, where did they go? South Africa. You follow? So, see, human beings, we are really part of our environment. This is why you go to Mexico, you drink the water, what happens? You get sick. But how can the people in Mexico drink that same water and be good? Because your body you are part of this planet Earth. You are like a cell on the planet. You follow? So if you were, in a person who we call an individual really just means in or not divided. You are composed of billions of individual life forms. And each individual life form, called a cell, can exist independently if in the right conditions. You can take a skin cell, put it in the right conditions, and it will thrive, grow. You follow? And physiologically, the term grow just means an increase in cells. You follow? So that cell will continue to divide and go through the process if it's in the right environment. Same with your all the cells in your body. You follow? You are not just one being, so to speak. You're composed of billions of different individual life forms. So just as this planet is composed, this planet is a living entity composed of billions upon billions of individual life forms called grass, trees, plants, animals. You follow? And if you were to pan out from the planet, you would see one mass. The further you go in, you see the individual life forms. That's the same with you. The closer you get to you start seeing the cells. You follow? You start seeing all of these different individual life forms. Because you are, it's like the macrocosm, microcosm concept. You know, as above, so below. It's the same thing with you as an individual. Any other questions? Just talk to me, and it make me feel better. Just say something.
Was back to the legal wife and concubine. Right. Now, when the Shah, he marries one of his sisters, which is of a different mother, just a different mother, right? But it must be the same father.
I'm sorry. You were speaking about if who married?
The rulers of
Well, the point is this. According to the laws that are decreed, because of the decrease in the number of males, it was decreed that a male should have more than one wife.
oh, any man. Okay.
Right. So, but the law said that the first wife had to be of the same species.
Right.
Meaning that from the same,
And she was determined the legal wife.
illegal in terms of if he would have married someone outside of that species, that would be
Right.
illegal.
Right. Okay. Tawa.
Any other questions? All right. I'd like to thank everybody for coming out. I hope everyone has has gotten the new actual fact. It's right here. Pafaik, Mukwanu, Mukhmimu, Salal. The supreme beings, melanite race. Yeah, you need this in your life if you don't have it. All right. Tawad, wado.